Many believe that to relax is to surrender the fight, to give up on the dream that burns within the heart. They see stillness as a white flag waved over the battlefield of life. But I tell you today, that is the most dangerous and crippling lie the enemy of your soul has ever whispered into the winds of this world. This deception blinds us to a higher truth. For in the kingdom of our dies, to relax in his everlasting arms is not to retreat. It is to unleash the full and unstoppable might of heaven on your behalf. This divine paradox reveals that our greatest strength is often found not in frantic exertion, but in profound trust, a truth that runs counter to every worldly instinct. The world, in its relentless clamor, screams that victory is won by sheer will, by pushing harder, by never relenting. But the kingdom of Dios operates on a different economy, a spiritual principle that calls for a deeper surrender. It is the sacred secret known to the prophets and saints of old, a quiet confidence that silences the roaring lion of fear and stills the raging seas of circumstance. It is the profound truth that your greatest victories will not be won in the frantic sweat of your own effort, but in the holy hush of your complete surrender to Him. This is where true power resides, not in human striving, but in divine alignment. There are countless modern manifestations of this crippling lie. We are told to outwork our doubts, to hustle past our anxieties, to build our empires brick by frantic brick. Yet the relentless pursuit of more, without the grounding of divine peace, often leads to an emptiness that no material gain can fill. This is the tragic cycle of a soul trying to be its own God, attempting to carry burdens it was never designed to bear. The enemy thrives on our exhaustion, knowing that a weary soul is far more susceptible to fear and despair than one resting securely in the Father's love. There are moments, are there not, when the world seems to conspire against you. The pressures of your responsibilities, the haunting voices of past failures, and the shapeless fears of an unknown future all converge upon your spirit like a torrential flood. Your heart beats a rhythm of anxiety, your mind becomes a whirlwind of doubt, and your soul trembles on the brink of exhaustion. But the world, in its flawed wisdom, tells you to hustle harder, to push faster, to clench your fists and fight. Yet, the Dios of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, in His infinite and perfect wisdom, calls you to do the very opposite. He beckons you to step back from the fray, to release your anxious grip, to simply be still, so that He, the Lord of hosts, may take over the battle for you. I remember a man I met many years ago, a good man, a man of industry and integrity. His shoulders were stooped, not by the weight of his years, but by the invisible burden of 1,000 worries. He was trying to be the architect of his own destiny, the captain of his own ship, and the king of his own small kingdom. He worked tirelessly, yet he found no peace. He acquired much, yet he felt a deep and hollow emptiness. He was a portrait of the modern man, running from a thirst he could not name, toward a well that held no water. His soul was a parched and cracked land, and he did not understand that the living water he so desperately needed could not be earned by striving, but only received by yielding. It was a lesson his heart had not yet learned. This man's outward success masked a profound inner struggle, a soul-deep fatigue that no amount of achievement could alleviate. He was constantly building, yet his spirit felt like it was crumbling. His life was a testament to the illusion that human effort alone can secure lasting contentment. Many, like him, exhaust themselves trying to achieve a sense of control and self-sufficiency, only to find that the very thing they chase, peace, eludes them more with every frantic step. His story echoes the cry of many who, in their striving, inadvertently push away the very source of refreshing grace. You see, my friend, true spiritual strength, The kind of strength that endures the fiercest trials and outlasts the darkest nights is never found in the clamor of frantic human effort. It is forged in the silent crucible of surrendered stillness. It is born in the quiet, unshakable confidence that the Deus who created the cosmos knows your name, that he has counted every hair on your head, and that he understands the deepest needs of your heart. He knows precisely the appointed time to release into your life the blessings he has held in reserve for you. You do not need to exhaust your spirit chasing after that which Deus has already inscribed with your name in the annals of eternity. When you finally relax, when you cease your striving and begin to rest in the perfect assurance of his will, you are not giving up. You are opening the floodgates for miracles. This divine precision in timing is a cornerstone of our faith. It means that every season, every waiting period, every closed door is orchestrated with purpose by a benevolent creator who sees the full tapestry of your life. Imagine the intricate workings of the universe, each star in its appointed orbit, each planet revolving with perfect synchronicity. If Deus manages the cosmos with such meticulous care, how much more does he manage the details of your precious life? Our impatience often wants to rush the process, but his wisdom understands that preparation is as vital as the provision itself. The world honors the one who never stops, the one who grinds and claws and competes, building monuments to ceaseless ambition and crowning the restless spirit. Yet, in this frantic race, how many souls are left breathless and broken on the side of the road? They pursue wealth, only to find it cannot buy peace. They chase after human recognition, only to discover its fleeting and hollow echo. They build their lives on the shifting sands of worldly success, never realizing that their souls were not designed to bear such a relentless pressure. It is only when we heed the call to pause, to take a holy breath, and realign our weary spirits with our Creator, that we discover the most profound truth. What our hearts truly yearned for was never far away. It was patiently waiting for us to be still enough to receive it. Think of the prophet Moses standing before the impassable Red Sea. Behind him, the thundering chariots of Pharaoh's army, the most powerful military force on earth, were closing in. Before him, an endless expanse of water. In that moment of utter impossibility, what was the command from Deus? Was it devise a strategy? Was it build rafts? Was it prepare to fight? No. The divine instruction, as recorded in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13, was this: do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That stillness was not passivity. It was the most potent act of faith imaginable. It was a declaration that his trust was not in himself, but in the Deus who commands the very waves of the sea. This command to be still in the face of annihilation was a test of ultimate trust, a radical call to cease human effort and allow divine power to intercede. Imagine the terror, the doubt, the sheer human impulse to flee or fight. Yet Moses chose to anchor his soul in the promise of his Creator. It was a stillness born of absolute confidence, not cowardice. And in that surrender, the impossible became reality. The Red Sea parted, and a path emerged where none existed. A testament to what Deus can do when his children simply step aside and allow him to fight their battles. If your heart is restless, even a kingdom will feel like a prison. The greatest promotion, the most beautiful home, the love of a good family, none of it will ever be enough to satisfy the deep ache of a soul that is not at peace with its Maker. But when your heart finds its true home, its Sabbath rest in the presence of Dios, then even the smallest crust of bread becomes a banquet. The simplest sunrise becomes a symphony of glory. The greatest treasures of this life, true peace, divine favor, a sense of eternal purpose, and deep abiding fulfillment, are never taken by force. They are not the spoils of war. They are the gentle gifts of grace received in the open hands of faith by a heart that has learned to be still and know that He is Dios. The pursuit of these profound treasures, peace, purpose, and favor through human striving, is like trying to catch wind with a net. They are not commodities to be earned or achievements to be grasped. Instead, they are the intrinsic blessings that flow naturally from a surrendered heart, a soul aligned with its Creator. This Sabbath rest is not a mere break from work. It is a sacred state of being, an internal sanctuary where the spirit is nourished and replenished, allowing us to experience the abundance of God's grace in every aspect of life, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. Some of you listening to my voice right now have been praying for years. You have been waiting, hoping, fasting, and pleading with Dios. Your knees are worn from kneeling and your voice is hoarse from crying out, and Dios honors that diligence. But I must ask you today, with all the amour of a father, have you truly tried relaxing in His presence? Have you ever dared to let go of your white-knuckled, anxious grip on the problem and simply whisper from the depths of your being, "Father, I trust you completely"? Because, you see, sometimes the answer to your prayer is not unlocked by the intensity of your striving. It is released by the tranquility of your trust. Sometimes Dios waits for you to stop running so He can finally begin moving on your behalf. This paradox of prayer reveals a deeper truth about God's heart. He is not impressed by our ceaseless effort to twist His arm or manipulate His will. Rather, He is moved by our genuine surrender, our willingness to trust His wisdom over our own urgent desires. The white-knuckled grip is a symptom of a soul that believes it must control the outcome, even in prayer. But when we release that grip, when we lean back into the arms of the Almighty, we create the spiritual space for Him to act in ways we could never orchestrate. This isn't passive resignation, it is active, confident faith. There is a divine paradox at work. The world screams that you must knock, bang, and kick down the doors of opportunity. But sometimes, the door you are so desperately pounding upon will not open until you cease your banging. Take a step back and quietly sit before it in patient faith. Your job is not to force the lock. Your job is to trust the one who holds the key. If that door is meant to be yours, if what lies behind it is part of His perfect plan for your life, then Dios Himself will turn the key at the precise and perfect moment. It will open so effortlessly that you will know it was not your strength, but His sovereignty that made the way. This requires a holy kind of rest that is the furthest thing from laziness or apathy. This holy rest is not idleness, but strategic positioning. It is an understanding that while human effort has its place, it is always secondary to divine timing and grace. When we try to force open a door, we often damage the hinges or miss the subtle invitation to a better path. But when we rest in faith, we are declaring our belief in God's perfect authorship of our story. We are trusting that He has already gone before us, preparing the way, and that His timing is always impeccable, even when our patience wears thin. This proactive stillness is a powerful statement of faith to both heaven and earth. This sacred rest is a form of spiritual warfare. It is a profound and divine confidence that boldly declares, even if my circumstances do not change today, even if the walls do not fall, and the sea does not part, I know that my Dios is working behind the scenes. I know He is orchestrating events I cannot see, aligning the right people, preparing the right opportunities, and calculating the perfect timing. That kind of rest is a force. It is a power that releases angelic assistance into your situation. It is a posture that brings supernatural clarity, because when your spirit finally grows calm and the inner storm subsides, you begin to hear the voice of Dios with astonishing new clarity. You begin to distinguish his still, small voice from the loud, bullying shouts of fear, culture, and your own insecurity. To understand rest as spiritual warfare is to grasp its revolutionary nature. The enemy desires chaos, confusion, and exhaustion because these states cripple our ability to hear God and act decisively. But when we choose rest, we choose order in our spirit, establishing a stronghold of peace that the adversary cannot penetrate. This clarity, this ability to discern God's voice amidst the clamor, is a spiritual weapon that guides our steps, illuminates our path, and empowers us to walk in divine purpose, unswayed by the world's demands or the devil's deception. It is a profound act of defiance against the forces that seek to derail us. Look around you at the majesty of Duo's creation. It is a masterpiece of divine order, not anxious chaos. The mighty rivers do not rush in a panic, carving their own frantic paths to the sea. They flow in the beds that Duos has ordained for them, and they always reach their destination. The countless stars in the heavens do not compete for brilliance or jostle for position. Each holds its appointed place, contributing its unique light to the magnificent celestial tapestry. The sun does not worry about rising too early or too late. It obeys its creator and bathes the world in light day after day without fail. Duos has woven balance, rhythm, and unwavering order into the very fabric of everything he has made. And you, my friend, who are fearfully and wonderfully made in his very image, were never meant to live in a state of perpetual panic and pressure. You were created to live in divine alignment, to move in rhythm with the heartbeat of your Creator. This is not some ethereal concept, but a practical truth for daily living. Just as the planets maintain their precise orbits, so too are we meant to find our spiritual equilibrium in Him. Imagine the profound peace that comes from knowing your place in the Creator. Grand design, unburdened by the need to prove your worth or frantically forge your own path. This alignment unlocks an internal reservoir of strength, allowing us to navigate life's storms with a calm that defies natural understanding, a testament to God's unwavering order. There is immeasurable power in a calm spirit. There is a weight of glory to be found in holy rest. There is an unassailable victory that is forged in the furnace of absolute trust. And ultimately it all comes down to that one simple yet life-altering word: trust. Do you truly deeply trust that Dios has your back? Do you believe, not just with your mind but with the very fiber of your soul, that He is not merely a distant spectator watching your struggles from afar, but an active, loving Father who is masterfully orchestrating all things for your ultimate good? If you genuinely believe this, then the frantic need to chase and grasp and control begins to melt away like snow in the spring sun. When you operate from a place of deep trust, you realize you don't need to chase after what is already pursuing you. Divine favor is not something you hunt down, it is something that follows the scent of genuine faith. Miraculous breakthroughs are not the result of human manipulation. They follow a sincere and unwavering belief in the one who can do all things. When you learn to relax in the tangible presence of Dios, you are not being passive, you are strategically positioning yourself on the spiritual battlefield to receive what is already yours by inheritance in the heavenly realms. You stop fighting and striving for the crumbs that fall from the table and begin to prepare yourself for the magnificent feast that He has been setting in your honor all along. This feast? This inheritance is far grander than anything our limited human imagination can conceive. It represents the fullness of God's intention for our lives, a life of purpose, abundance, and profound peace. Yet how can you receive His gifts if your spirit is cluttered with worries, anxieties, and the desperate need to control every outcome? There is simply no room for the blessings He longs to bestow. This divine exchange requires us to empty ourselves of our burdens so that He can fill us with His boundless grace and provision. It is a fundamental principle of the kingdom. Think of it this way. If your hands are clenched into tight fists, full of the pebbles of your worries, your anxieties, and your desperate need to control, how can you possibly receive the priceless diamonds that Jesus is trying to place in them? Many good and decent people, children of the King, lose what was destined for them simply because they never learned the sacred art of being still. They allowed the shrill voice of fear to dictate their pace rather than the gentle whisper of faith. But true faith, the kind of faith that moves mountains, is never afraid to wait. It is never ashamed to rest. It knows with absolute certainty that when Jesus decides to move, no earthly power can stand in His way. And when Jesus says, "Now," nothing in heaven or on earth can delay Him. This is the divine secret. When you relax, not in the weakness of your flesh, but in the strength of your spirit, you activate a heavenly force. You commission an angelic army that goes before you, making the crooked paths straight, leveling the mountains of opposition, and turning situations that seemed impossible into powerful testimonies of His grace and glory. Some of you who hear me are bone weary. You are tired to the very core of your being. But your exhaustion is not because you have worked too much, but because you have trusted too little. You have foolishly tried to place the immense weight of your own future upon your finite human shoulders, forgetting that it is Dios, the everlasting Father, who carries you in the palm of His hand. I implore you, my friend, relax. Let Him lift the burden. Let Him handle what you were never created to handle. This invitation to lay down your burden is not a call to irresponsibility, but to profound wisdom. It is recognizing the vast chasm between your finite capacity and God's infinite power. When you attempt to carry the weight of your entire future, you are usurping a role that belongs solely to the Almighty, and the result is inevitable exhaustion. But when you consciously surrender, you shift the burden from your fragile shoulders to the omnipotent hands of your Creator. This is not a passive wish, it is an active transfer of responsibility, a deliberate act of faith that unlocks divine intervention and supernatural strength. Stop trying to control what was never truly in your hands to begin with. That broken relationship that haunts your nights, hand it to Dios. That uncertain situation at your job that fills you with dread, hand it to Dios. That beautiful God-given dream that seems so impossibly far off, hand it over to the author of all dreams. And then, for the first time in a long time, just breathe. Take a deep, slow breath of faith, knowing that the one who flung the stars into space and who knows them all by name is not for one single moment confused or overwhelmed by the details of your life. He sees the end from the beginning, and He is weaving a masterpiece, even if all you can see right now are tangled threads. This breathing of faith is an act of spiritual defiance against the anxiety that seeks to strangle your hope. It is a tangible step towards releasing the illusion of control and embracing the profound peace that comes from absolute trust. Imagine the intricate design of a master weaver, each thread seemingly disjointed, yet forming a magnificent pattern known only to the artist. Your life, with all its complexities and uncertainties, is precisely that, a masterpiece in progress, being woven by the skilled hands of Dios, who never makes a mistake and never drops a single thread. There is a profound peace, a peace that surpasses all human understanding, that descends upon a soul when it stops desperately begging for signs and starts confidently believing in the unseen hand of Dios. This peace comes when you know in your knower that Dios is not slow. He is strategic. It settles in your heart when you finally believe that the delays you are experiencing are not divine denials, but rather divine development. Sometimes, Dios is preparing you for the blessing just as much as He is preparing the blessing for you. If He were to give you the promotion, the ministry, or the relationship you are praying for too early, before your character was ready to sustain it, the weight of that very blessing might crush you. This is why He lovingly tells you, be still. This is why He sovereignly asks you to wait. It is never because He has forgotten you. It is because He is a master craftsman, and He is perfecting every detail that concerns you. The world, in its blindness, honors those who never rest. It gives them titles like hustlers and grinders. But heaven, which sees with eternal eyes, honors those who have learned to rest in Dios. They are not called hustlers, they are called the faithful. And it is the faithful and the faithful alone who will always inherit the promise. They do not miss it. They do not lose it. They do not forfeit it through impatience, because they have grasped this one, central, life-altering truth. When you stop trying to force your own way through the wilderness of life, Dios Himself makes a way where there was no way, and His way is always without exception better than yours. The pathway of the faithful often looks different to the world's hurried gaze. It is a path marked not by frantic urgency, but by a quiet, unwavering confidence in God's unfailing wisdom. They understand that true success is not measured by the speed of their ascent, but by the depth of their surrender. This understanding frees them from the tyranny of comparison and the pressure of external validation, allowing them to walk in a unique rhythm orchestrated by the Creator. It is in this holy rhythm that burdens are transformed into blessings and challenges become crucibles for deeper faith. His way does not lead to burnout, it leads to a river of peace. His way does not culminate in emptiness, it leads to a glorious overflow of joy and purpose. But it all begins with that first courageous step of trust. It begins with the laying down of your own weapons, the surrender of your own flawed strategies. It starts with relaxing the death grip of fear on your heart and picking up the royal mantle of faith. My dear brother, my dear sister, you have cried enough tears. You have worried yourself into sickness. You have begged long enough. Now is the time for a new season. Now is the time to rest in Dios. It is time to lean into Him with the full weight of your being as you never have before, and to say from a place of deep conviction, Father, you see what I cannot. You know what I do not. So I will stop wrestling and I will start resting. And I give you this promise, not on my own authority, but on the authority of Dios' unchanging word. When you truly learn to relax in Him, He will begin to work for you in ways that will astound and astonish you. Doors that have been sealed shut for years will begin to swing open of their own accord. Opportunities you thought were lost forever will begin to return, renewed and restored. The broken pieces of your past, the shattered fragments of your heart, will begin to come together to form a breathtaking masterpiece. And all of this will happen not because you forced it, but because you finally trusted the master artist. Trust is never a passive state. It is the single most powerful and dynamic action a human soul can ever take. The unfolding of this divine masterpiece is a testament to the transformative power of surrendered faith. It is in those moments of quiet trust that God takes the shattered fragments of our lives, the regrets, the failures, the heartbreaks, and weaves them into something of profound beauty and purpose. This restoration is not merely a return to what was lost, but an elevation to something far greater, infused with grace and resilience, forged in the crucible of divine waiting. The master artist sees beyond our present pain to the glorious portrait he is meticulously creating, a masterpiece that will reflect his glory and bear witness to his unfailing faithfulness. Trusting dies is not doing nothing. It is in fact doing the most important thing of all. It is a bold declaration to the heavens, to the earth, and to every spiritual enemy of your destiny. It is you standing firm and proclaiming that no matter what the circumstances look like, no matter what the world says, no matter what your feelings scream, you are anchored in the unseen reality of his promises. It is declaring that your confidence is not in your bank account, not in your connections, not in your own abilities, but in the mighty one who holds you. And when you begin to live like that, when you walk through this world with that kind of supernatural peace, everything in and around you begins to change. You do not just survive the trials of life, you begin to thrive in the midst of them. You do not just get through the valley, you rise above it on wings like eagles. Dios has not called you to be a beast of burden, carrying every weight and worry upon your own back. He has called you to cast your burdens upon him, for he cares for you. And when you do, when you truly release what is in your trembling hands, he in turn releases what is in his mighty hands. And I assure you, what he holds for you is infinitely greater, more glorious, and more fulfilling than anything you could ever hope to build with your own two hands and your own finite effort. This is why the most deeply anointed men and women of Dios I have ever known were not the busiest people. They were the most surrendered. They understood the awesome power of letting go. They knew the divine secret of walking in his flow, trusting that everything they truly needed would come to them, not when they chased it down, but when they simply aligned themselves with the holy rhythm of Dios. This holy rhythm is the very pulse of heaven, a sacred cadence that governs all of creation and offers profound rest to those who tune their lives to its beat. It's a surrender that doesn't deplete but empowers, a letting go that paradoxically leads to greater spiritual authority and effectiveness. The busiest among us often confuse activity with productivity, but true fruitfulness springs from alignment with God's will, not from endless striving. When we relinquish our frantic pace and embrace his rhythm, we discover that our greatest impact comes not from our own strength, but from his manifest presence working through us. When you truly relax in the depths of your soul, you begin to see life from a new heavenly perspective. You realize it is not a frantic race to be won, but a sacred journey to be walked in alignment with the will of your Father. Every moment, every perceived delay, every unanswered question, every closed door, it all becomes part of a grand and beautiful orchestration. Dios does not operate on the chaotic, impatient timelines of this fallen world. He moves according to a divine design, an eternal timing, and a perfect, all-knowing wisdom. While you are fretting and worrying about what you do not yet possess, Dios is lovingly preparing what you are not yet ready to receive. And so he teaches you the most vital lessons of the kingdom, not through speed but through stillness, not through noise but through holy silence. Therefore, learning to relax in Dios is not a sign of weakness, it is the ultimate expression of wisdom. It is the hallmark of true spiritual maturity. It is the profound recognition that the silence of Dios is never his absence, it is always his preparation. There is a terrible storm that brews in the heart of every man and woman who believes the lie that they must do it all, fix it all, and be it all themselves. That inner storm is fueled by the hurricane winds of fear, anxiety, pride, and crippling doubt. But your Creator never intended for you to live in the violent eye of that storm. He called you to stand upon the rock of his promises and to live above it. And the only way to rise above the chaos of your circumstances is to anchor your soul in the unshakable bedrock of divine trust. That trust is not loud, boastful, or ostentatious. It is quiet, humble, and unwavering. It is that still, small voice deep within your spirit that says, even if I cannot see the way forward, I know that Dios is making a way for me. Even if I feel utterly alone, I know that He is closer to me than my very breath. Even if I do not understand why this is happening, I rest in the assurance that He knows exactly what He is doing. It is in this posture of quiet, resolute trust that true transformation begins. Your thoughts begin to shift from a pattern of worry to a posture of worship. Your mind moves from the precipice of panic to the plateau of peace, and your steps, which were once hurried and unsure, begin to align with the perfect cadence of divine timing. This alignment of thought and action with God's cadence is the very essence of walking in the Spirit. It transcends mere intellectual assent. It becomes a visceral knowing, a deep spiritual intuition that guides every decision and every response. When your inner world shifts from worry to worship, you invite the presence of Dios to permeate your entire being, transforming your perspective and empowering your actions. This is not passive inaction, but a dynamic, Spirit-led movement where every step is ordered, every breath is prayer, and every moment is an opportunity to witness His faithful hand at work. The reason so many people feel like they are constantly running into walls is not because the path is wrong, but because their pace is wrong. They are running ahead of their guide. Dios never asks you to run ahead of His will. That is the very definition of presumption. He asks you, He invites you to walk with Him, to listen to His gentle guidance, to rest in His loving presence, and to obey His commands. And sometimes the highest and most difficult form of obedience looks, to the watching world, like doing nothing at all. It looks like waiting, but it is not a passive, empty waiting. It is a faith-filled waiting, a peace-filled waiting, a waiting with a heart that is fully and joyfully surrendered to the Lordship of Christ. You have not been forgotten. You are not being overlooked by the Dios of the universe. The delay that you are currently facing is not a divine rejection, it is a sacred pause. It is a holy intermission in the grand play of your life. A moment where Dios is backstage, rearranging the scenery, bringing in new characters, and setting up everything for your ultimate benefit. And if you fight against this stillness, if you resist this sacred pause, you may very well miss the divine direction He is trying to give you. Because often, Dios will not shout above the noise of your own anxiety and striving. He will lovingly wait until you are quiet enough, still enough, to hear His gentle whisper. This is the urgent reason you must learn to relax. This is not simply a physical relaxation, it is a deep spiritual letting go. You must stop attempting to carry the burdens that belong only to Dios. He does not need your worry. In fact, your worry is an insult to His sovereignty. What He desires is your worship. He does not require your stress to solve your problems. He asks for your surrender. There is a tangible, supernatural weight that lifts from a person's soul the moment they sincerely say, Dios, this is too much for me to carry, so I am giving it all to you. And when you truly mean it, when you release it from your spirit, and not just your lips, something miraculous happens. Doors begin to open, burdens begin to lift, and paths that were once hopelessly blocked become clear and straight. Not because you fought harder, but because you finally allowed the captain of the angel armies to fight for you. This transfer of burden to the captain of the angel armies is not a retreat from responsibility, but a strategic deployment of heavenly resources. It's an acknowledgement that some battles are beyond our human capacity, requiring divine intervention. When we truly surrender, we activate a supernatural defense, a legion of unseen warriors that go before us, clearing the way and securing victory. This peace, born of trust, becomes a beacon in the storm, guiding us through impossible situations and revealing God's power in miraculous ways that testify to His absolute sovereignty and our humble yet powerful faith. You see, many of the blessings you have been praying for are being held back, not because Dios is withholding them, but because you have not yet made room in your life to receive them. Your hands are too full of the greasy rags of fear. Your schedule is too packed with the deafening noise of the world. Your heart is too burdened with the heavy yoke of self-reliance. But when you relax, when you clear out the inner clutter of anxiety and frantic effort, Dios rushes in to fill that empty space like a mighty rushing wind. He is not impressed by how much you can carry on your own. He is moved by how much you are willing to lay down at His feet. The most powerful people on this earth are not those who shout the loudest, or work the hardest, or accumulate the most. They are those who live in perfect moment-by-moment alignment with the will of Dios. And that blessed alignment is only found through peace. It is a peace that declares, Dios, I trust you more than I trust my own limited understanding. I choose rest over worry. I choose surrender over striving. I choose patience over panic. That is the kind of heart that Dios delights to honor. That is the kind of spirit upon which He lavishly pours out His blessings. I want you to look back at your own life for a moment. Think about the times when you were the most anxious, the most desperate, the most restless. Did those frantic seasons bring you true peace, or did they simply drain your spirit and leave you more exhausted than before? Now contrast that with the moments where you finally let go, where you threw up your hands and said, Dios, if this is your will, then I surrender to it completely. Weren't those the very moments when everything began to shift, when things started to fall into place, not because of your straining effort, but because of your sweet surrender? That, my friend, is the sacred pattern of faith. Let go and let Dios lead. And please hear me on this. Relaxing in Dios does not mean you give up on your dreams. On the contrary, it means you are finally entrusting those dreams to the one who gave them to you in the first place. It means believing that what Dios has destined for you will not miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. His master plans are not fragile. They cannot be thwarted by human error or demonic opposition. His timing is not flawed. It is eternally perfect. His blessings do not require your frantic manipulation or clever schemes. They require only one thing from you, your trust. So stop trying to control what only Dios can orchestrate. Stop tying your peace to specific outcomes. Detach yourself from the exhausting need to understand everything, and anchor yourself in the liberating knowledge that He understands everything. There is a place in the human soul, a secret chamber, where anxiety cannot survive. It is the place where you meet Dios face to face, not in the noisy arena of performance and religious duty, but in the quiet sanctuary of trust. It is there, in that holy place, that you are reminded of your true identity. You are not what you do for a living. You are not what you have in the bank. You are not what other people say about you. You are who Dios, your Creator, says you are. Fearfully, wonderfully, and purposefully made for His glory. You do not need to chase after the fleeting validation of this world. You do not need to impress anyone. You need only to rest in the amor and acceptance of your Creator. And when you do, a peace descends upon your soul like a gentle spring rain on a dry and thirsty land. A peace that cleanses, restores, and makes all things new. Let Dios renew you. Let Him strengthen you, not through more activity, but through divine rest. Stop trying to outrun the sacred process He has ordained for you. Stop comparing your pace to the pace of others. What Dios is doing in your life is a unique and custom-designed work of art. You are not behind schedule, you are not late. You are exactly where Dios needs you to be for this specific season of your development. And even if you feel stuck, even if you feel as though nothing is moving on the surface, I want you to understand this. Dios does his most profound work in the seasons of stillness and silence. He works in the dark soil of your life, where nothing appears to be growing, but deep beneath the surface, he is forming strong roots that will one day enable you to bear incredible fruit. This quiet work of God in the unseen depths of your being is often the most critical phase of spiritual growth. Just as a mighty oak first establishes deep roots before reaching skyward, so too must our souls be anchored in Christ before they can bear the weight of his magnificent blessings. The stillness is not barrenness, it is cultivation. The silence is not abandonment, it is purposeful sculpting. Embracing this hidden season allows Dios to fortify your character, deepen your faith, and prepare you for a harvest that will far exceed your present expectations, manifesting in a life of profound resilience and abundant grace. And yet, there are always those who will scoff. They believe that peace is only a luxury for the privileged, that rest is a code word for the lazy, and that stillness is for those who have given up on life. But I declare to you today, with every fiber of my being and with the full conviction of the Holy Spirit, that peace is the inheritance of the obedient. Stillness is the sanctuary of the wise, and rest is the portion of the one who trusts, with childlike faith, that Dios is more than enough. You do not rest because your journey is over. You rest because you know who walks with you on the journey. You relax not because the battle has been finished, but because you finally understand that the battle is not yours to fight, it belongs to the Lord. When you truly and deeply believe that, your soul stops shaking. The fists of your spirit unclench. Your eyes lift from the overwhelming size of your problem to the infinite greatness of your provider. The world teaches you to grind, to press, to push even harder when things get tough. But what Dios teaches is that when the load gets heavier, you must go lower. You humble yourself before his mighty hand. You submit to crushing pressure at his feet. You say with unwavering faith, Dios, if you brought me this far, you will not abandon me now. If you opened one door for me in the past, you will surely open another in my future. When you walk in faith, you are never walking alone. When you rest in Dios, you are not being passive. You are declaring spiritual war against the demonic forces that want you to burn out, give up, and forget the high calling on your life. Relaxing in Dios is not about ignoring your God-given responsibilities. It is about fulfilling them with a heart that is no longer ruled by fear. It means applying for that new job, but trusting that Dios alone determines the outcome. It means taking diligent care of your family, but knowing that Dios is your ultimate sustainer and provider. It means showing up every single day, not to impress the world or to earn your salvation, but to honor the one who gave you the precious gift of life. That kind of relaxation does not lead to laziness, it leads to crystal clear clarity. You begin to see with spiritual eyes where your energy should be invested. You stop trying to control everything and everyone, and you start moving only when and where Dios leads you. Some of you are exhausted because you have been trying to do Dios' job. You have been playing the role of the provider, the protector, the master planner, and even the judge. But there is only one who holds that supreme authority. And when you finally release your false sense of control, when you voluntarily step down from the throne of your own life and allow Dios to sit where he rightfully belongs, a river of peace returns to the dry land of your soul. Then, and only then, Do you begin to truly see that you were never meant to fix it all? You were meant to trust the one who can. Do you want to know why you have not seen your breakthrough yet? It is not because Dios has forgotten you. It is because you have been unknowingly blocking what he wants to send you by holding far too tightly to your own version of the plan. You are so intensely focused on what you think your deliverance should look like that you are completely missing what he is actually trying to give you. But when you relax, when you let your heart breathe and say, Dios, not my will, but your will be done. Do it your way, you create the spiritual atmosphere necessary for the unseen to take visible form. You allow your destiny to finally align with his divine timing. You learn to let go of the counterfeit blessings that the world offers, making room for the real, authentic, and lasting blessings that come only from him. And yes, there will be moments of temptation. There will be times when you look at others who seem to be far ahead of you, and the old urge to panic will rise up within you like a venomous snake. But you must hear me clearly, my friend. Comparison is the thief of peace. The moment you take your eyes off of what Dios is doing in you and start focusing on what you think he is doing in them, you lose your spiritual rhythm. And when you lose your rhythm, you start to force things. You fall out of the river of his favor. Because Dios blesses divine order, not human chaos. You do not need to worry about who is getting married before you, who is getting richer before you, or who is getting recognized before you. Dios has not forgotten you. He is preserving you. He is protecting you, because what he has in store for you is not common. It is not ordinary. It is not a cheap, mass-produced blessing. It is custom-made for you, and anything custom takes time. So stop fighting the process and start trusting the Creator. This frantic comparison robs you of your unique journey, attempting to force your story into someone else's mold, thereby missing the exquisite, bespoke design God has for you alone. Stop running after everything and everyone and position yourself in faith so that the right things can start running toward you. This is not the time to panic. This is the time to plant yourself deeper into the rich soil of his trust. Because when your roots go down deep into Dios, your leaves will not wither in the scorching heat of delay. When your foundation is built upon the rock of ages, no storm of this life will be able to shake you. And when your eyes are fixed steadfastly on Dios, you will begin to see what others miss. You will hear the quiet instructions, the divine nudges, the sacred whispers that will lead you to places no earthly map could ever guide you. That is the great reward of rest, clarity. Dios does not shout over the noise. He whispers to the soul that is still. If this word has found you today, it is not by chance. Join this congregation to continue receiving the bread of life Dios has for you. A like or a subscription strengthens the wall of faith we build together. Let me ask you this question, and I want you to answer it honestly in the quiet of your own heart. What would happen in your life if you truly, fully believed that nothing good that Dios has ordained for you could ever pass you by? What if you knew with unshakable certainty that anything and everything meant for you would find you? Not when you are stressed and anxious, but precisely when you are at perfect peace with Dios. Pace for your life. That is not a fantasy, my friend. That is the living promise for those who choose to walk in complete surrender. They may not move the fastest according to the world's stopwatch, but they always end up exactly where Dios meant for them to be, because their steps are not guided by pressure, they are guided by divine instruction. So yes, relax. Let people think you are being too calm. Let them wonder why you are not rushing and scrambling like everyone else. Let them question the source of your inexplicable peace. Because when your breakthrough finally comes, and I assure you that it will, they will finally understand, They will see that your calm was not foolishness, it was faith. They will realize that your peace was not passivity, it was power in its purest form, because Dios always justifies those who place their trust in Him. He always vindicates the ones who are willing to wait on His timing. And waiting is not a sign of weakness. Waiting is an act of preparation. A farmer does not dig up his seed every day to anxiously check on its progress. He waters it, he tends the soil, and he trusts the process that Dios ordained. That is what your season of waiting is doing. It is watering the seeds of your faith. It is strengthening your spiritual endurance. It is refining your character so that when the harvest finally comes, you do not just receive it, you are able to sustain it. Because what Dios gives you, He also prepares you for. That is why rushing will never get you what resting can. Because your rest reveals your readiness. When you are anxious, you forget who Dios is. You diminish the Creator of the heavens and the earth down to the small level of your own impatience. But when you are at peace, you magnify Dios. You exalt His sovereign power above your perceived need. You lift His perfect will high above your worries. And that is when doors swing open. That is when favor follows. That is when heaven itself begins to move on your behalf. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you trusted the deepest. You do not need to convince Dios to bless you. He already desires to. You just need to get into the proper position to receive. And that position is peace. That posture is surrender. And that expression is unwavering trust. That is where the real power lies. That is the secret that most people will live their entire lives without ever discovering. The most successful, the most fulfilled, the most anointed people are not always the busiest. They are the ones who are the most deeply rested in Dios. They move with a sense of divine purpose. They walk in supernatural wisdom. They do not chase after blessings, they attract them because they are in perfect alignment. And alignment will always beat ambition. And if you also believe in the power of His Word, I invite you to write Amen in the comments to seal this promise in your spirit. And now I tell you, there is an even deeper revelation that comes when you truly make peace with Dios pace. It is not just about relaxing your body or even calming your thoughts. It is about entering into a sacred dimension of trust where you finally realize that the timing of your life is not yours to control. It belongs to Dios. The timing of your promotion, the timing of your healing, the timing of your vindication, all of it is governed not by chance, not by coincidence, but by the sovereign hands of the Almighty, who sees the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. You must stop living as though life is some complex puzzle that you have to figure out on your own. You were never created to carry the crushing burden of your own destiny. Dios did not design you to be the architect of every single detail of your life. You are not Dios. You are His beloved creation. And your greatest strength will be found in the very moment you truly and humbly accept this truth. You are not in control. And that, my dear friend, is the most freeing and liberating thing you will ever realize. Because once you finally release the illusion of control, Dios can begin to pull back the curtain and reveal the divine orchestration that has been taking place all along, just behind the scenes of your circumstances. Let me tell you, there are blessings already in motion for you that your eyes have not yet seen. There are solutions being prepared for problems that have not even reached you yet. There are provisions being built in secret, not because of your performance, but because of your positioning. And the position Dios requires is not a frantic hustle. It is a faith-filled stillness. It is not inaction, but alignment. Because it is entirely possible to be very busy and still be completely disobedient. It is possible to be very active and still be miles away from the perfect will of Dios. But when your spirit is finally tuned to His divine direction, your steps become strategic, your words become anointed, and your rest becomes a powerful spiritual weapon. You see, the enemy of your soul wants to steal your rest. He will do anything to keep you agitated, worried, and hurried. He knows that in your rest, your spiritual discernment becomes sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. In your rest, your spiritual hearing becomes crystal clear. In your rest, your spirit becomes exquisitely sensitive to the subtle movements of Dios. The enemy's strategy is to overwhelm us with noise and urgency, to distract us from the quiet whispers of God. He knows that a soul steeped in turmoil is easily led astray, prone to making impulsive decisions rooted in fear rather than divine wisdom. But when we cultivate a spirit of rest, we build an impenetrable fortress against these assaults. Our heightened spiritual sensitivity allows us to perceive the subtle nuances of God's leading, to follow His divine GPS, even when the path ahead seems obscured. This rest is not a passive surrender to fate, but an active, strategic engagement with the spiritual forces that seek to guide or derail our destiny. This is why so many people today are agitated, confused, and filled with doubt. It is not because they do not have access to DOs. It is because they have not created the sacred silence necessary to hear Him. But when you intentionally quiet the distractions, when you deliberately turn down the volume of fear, when you choose to detach from the endless soul-killing noise of comparison and anxiety, you begin to hear something deeper. You begin to hear the whisper of your destiny. And that whisper does not rush, it does not panic, it does not demand that you have all the answers right now. It simply calls you to trust, to believe that even when the night is long and the way forward is unclear, Dios is still working. He is still weaving every delay, every setback, and every closed door into something far greater than you could ever imagine. Sometimes, what feels like a painful rejection is simply a divine redirection. Sometimes, the very thing you are begging Dios to do for you right now is something He is intentionally withholding because He, in His omniscience, knows what lies ahead, and He is lovingly protecting you from unseen danger. So do not mistake the silence of Dios for the absence of Dios. Do not interpret a closed door as a final divine no. It might just be a not yet. And if you will only stay in faith, if you will hold your peace, if you will relax into the holy rhythm of trust, you will live to see that the very things you thought were being denied to you were actually being prepared for a more perfect time. Dios is never early, and He is never late. He moves with divine precision. He answers with absolute perfection. He gives you not just what you ask for, but what your soul truly needs. Some of you have cried out in the night, "Why have I not seen it yet? Why is this taking so long? Why do I feel so stuck?" And I say to you, with the compassion of Christ, it is not because Dios has turned His face away from you. It is because He is building something deeper inside of you. He is teaching you how to wait well. He is training you to live with holy expectation, not crippling anxiety. He is preparing your inner world to be able to carry the weight of what your outer world will soon experience. He is not just working around you, He is working in you. And when the appointed time finally comes, you will not just receive the blessing, you will be ready to handle it. Because a blessing given too soon can become a burden. A door opened too early can become a trap. And a dream fulfilled without the necessary maturity can become a curse. That is why Dios is so careful. That is why He sometimes says, wait. Not because He delights in your frustration, but because He delights in your future. And if you could see what He is protecting you from, you would thank Him for every single delay. If you could just catch a glimpse of the weight of glory that lies ahead, you would praise Him for every silent season. Because while you have been asking for what is good, Dios has been preparing what is best. So I say to you again, my friend, relax, breathe, Let go of the artificial timeline that you have constructed in your own mind. Let go of the immense pressure to be where someone else is in their journey. Your journey is not theirs. Your timing is not theirs. And your purpose is not theirs. And that is the glorious beauty of it. This unique path, custom designed by the Creator, is a masterpiece of divine specificity. No two journeys are identical, and to compare your unfolding story with another's is to dismiss the exquisite detail and intention that Dios has poured into your life alone. Embrace the sacred distinctiveness of your calling, knowing that every twist and turn, every ascent and valley serves a greater purpose in His eternal plan. This acceptance of your divine blueprint liberates you from the exhausting race of external validation and anchors you firmly in the unshakable truth of God's sovereign love for you. What Dios has written for your life cannot be stolen, it cannot be rushed, and it cannot be missed. The only thing that can delay it is your own resistance to His call to rest. When you try to force open a door that Dios has closed, you will only find yourself drained, discouraged, and distant from the very peace that was promised to you. But the moment you take a step back, the moment you say, Dios, I choose your pace over mine, your way over mine, your will above all else, that is the moment the shift begins. It may not always be immediate. It may not always be visible to the naked eye. But in the spiritual realm, something powerful breaks open. Because Dios honors those who trust Him. He elevates those who wait on Him. He pours out His abundance on those who rest under the shadow of His wing, knowing that in their stillness He is moving mountains. You want to see miracles in your life? Learn to be still. You want to receive clear answers to your prayers? Learn to listen. You want to walk in divine timing? Learn to wait. Not passively, but actively. Wait with praise on your lips, with faith in your heart, and with joyous expectation in your spirit. Let your relaxation be a bold declaration of your belief that Dios is not finished with you yet. That what He started in you, He will faithfully bring to completion. That what He has promised, He will surely perform, and that what He has prepared for you is already on its way, not because you chased it down, but because you trusted Him for it. And when it comes, and it will, you will look back and realize that every moment you chose peace over panic was a seed that birthed your harvest. Every time you made the conscious decision and said, I will not worry, I will worship, you moved the heavens on your behalf. Every deep breath of surrender, every small step of obedience, every quiet act of faith brought you closer, not to what you merely wanted, but to what Dios always knew you truly needed. And that, my friend, is the place where everything changes. And now I urge you, I implore you to reflect, truly reflect on what it means to rest, not just with your body, but with your spirit. To relax in the very depths of your soul. Because some of you have grown weary, not from the work of your hands, but from the relentless war raging in your mind. The constant circling thoughts, the racing doubts, the whispers of not good enough, the echoes of it's too late, the torment of what if. These are not just random mental battles, my friend. They are strategic spiritual attacks sent by the enemy to steal your focus, to erode your confidence, and to obliterate your peace. But Dios, in His infinite mercy, is calling you today into a different realm, a higher dimension of trust, where anxiety cannot enter, and fear is forbidden to speak. You see, peace is not the absence of noise. It is the tangible presence of Dios within the noise. And when you carry the presence of Dios within you, when your heart is saturated with the unshakable knowledge that He is in full and absolute control, no storm on the outside can ever shake the profound stillness within. The enemy's greatest weapon is not disaster, it is distraction. If he can keep you busy with worry, hurried with fear, and pressed with pressure, he can effectively keep you from hearing the gentle whisper of your Dios. But when you choose stillness, when you choose to relax, in the sovereignty of your Heavenly Father, you render the enemy utterly powerless, because your peace becomes your shield. Your calm becomes your declaration of war against chaos. There is a supernatural order that begins to unfold in your life when you remove your own hands from the wheel and say with every fiber of your being, Dios, I trust you more than I trust myself. That is not weakness. That is the highest form of wisdom. That is not resignation. That is true spiritual maturity. That is spiritual courage of the highest order, because only the brave can truly let go. Only the spiritually mature can choose to rest when the world demands that they panic. Only those who truly know their Dios can say, even if everything falls apart around me, I will not be moved, for I am not held up by my circumstances, but by the invisible hand of the Almighty. This profound courage to relinquish control is born from an intimate knowledge of God's character. It is recognizing that His grip on your life is far more secure than your own, and that His plans are infinitely superior to any you could devise. When you consciously place your life in His invisible yet omnipotent hands, a peace descends that defies all earthly logic. This is the peace that guards your heart and mind, a divine sentinel against the onslaught of fear and doubt. It transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a victor by faith, standing firm on the unshakable bedrock of His promises, regardless of the storms that rage around you. And I speak this directly into your spirit right now. Some of you have been grinding and striving, praying with clenched fists, fasting with fearful hearts, pushing on doors that will not open, and crying out in frustration, why is nothing changing for me? And the answer from heaven today is this: because you have not yet surrendered the weight. You have given Dius your words, but you have not given him your worry. You have offered him your praise, but you have not offered him your pressure. You have spoken of faith, but you have lived in fear. And Dius in his divine amour is not punishing you. He is inviting you. He is inviting you into a rest so deep, so sacred, so holy, that it will shift your entire atmosphere. When you enter that rest, you stop begging and you start believing. You stop chasing and you start attracting. You stop merely surviving and you start truly thriving. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because your soul becomes anchored. Anchored in the glorious truth that Dius is not watching your life unfold like a detached spectator. He is writing it like a master author. Every chapter, every page, every single punctuation mark is intentional. Nothing in your life is random. Nothing is wasted. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is outside of His sovereign reach. The pain, the delay, the heartbreak, the confusion, it is all being used. It is being molded and transformed by His loving hands into something far greater than your finite mind can possibly grasp at this moment. And yes, I know you have waited. I know you have questioned. I know you have wondered if Dius even hears your prayers anymore. But I declare to you today, on the authority of His word, He hears you, He sees you, and He is nearer to you than you think. But sometimes He waits for your silence before He speaks. Sometimes He waits for your surrender before He sends. And sometimes the greatest answer to your prayer is not in what He gives you, but in what He takes from you. He takes the heavy burden. He takes the crippling fear. He takes the insidious lie that you have to somehow earn what He has already prepared for you as a gift of His grace. Dius is not withholding from you out of cruelty. He is holding it back because He is perfecting the vessel that must carry the blessing. He knows what you do not know. He sees what you cannot see. And when you try to take what is not yet ready, you rob yourself of the fullness of what was always meant to be. That is why the command is so simple, yet so profound. Be still and know that I am Dios. That is not a suggestion. It is not a motivational quote. It is a divine instruction that holds within it the power to unlock what has been locked in your life for years. There are things in your life that are not broken, they are just paused. They are on a divine hold, while Dios finishes a work that you cannot see. And the very moment you stop fighting the delay and start trusting the delay is the moment the spiritual tides in your life will begin to turn. Dios does not operate in panic. He is never hurried. And if you are made in His image, neither should you be. Learn to walk with the calm assurance of someone who knows that everything they need is already in motion. Learn to rest like one who knows their name is written in the eternal plan of Dios. Because when you trust Dios that deeply, you begin to live differently. You no longer speak from a place of fear. You speak from a place of faith. You no longer act out of desperation. You act from divine direction. You stop running after every fleeting opportunity, and you wait patiently for the one that has your name on it. When people ask you, why are you so calm in the midst of this storm? You will be able to say with quiet confidence, because I know who holds my life, I know who guides my steps, and I know that what is meant for me will never pass me by. Let me tell you, the greatest victories in life are not always loud and spectacular. Sometimes the greatest victory is a quiet peace in the middle of a raging storm. It is a calm spirit in a world that is spiraling out of control. It is a heart that can genuinely smile in the waiting. That is when the enemy knows he has lost the battle for your soul. When you are not shaken by what should have shaken you. When you are not bitter about what you lost, because you know Dios will restore something better. When you are not afraid of what lies ahead, because you know Dios has already gone before you. And when you reach that level of unshakable trust, your prayers themselves begin to change. They are no longer frantic and desperate. They are filled with a quiet, powerful confidence. You no longer cry out in panic. You speak with the authority of a child of the King, knowing that you are heard. Your faith is no longer conditional on your circumstances. It becomes unwavering. You do not just believe when things are going right, you believe even when nothing makes sense, because your hope is not in outcomes, it is in Dios Himself. And that, my dear friend, is the place where true life begins. Not a life free from struggle, but a life filled with His strength. Not a life absent of storms, but a life anchored in His peace. Not a life without delay, but a life full of His divine timing. And it all begins the moment you choose to relax, not from indifference, but from unshakable faith. If you have made the decision today to rest in His hands, seal it by writing "I surrender" in the comments below. Let it be a testament to your faith.